Rockstar Games, once a pioneer, now a cash cow company. What the hell happened? When you look at Rockstar Games, you think of the absolute masterpiece that Red Dead Redemption 2 was. You think of the original innovative idea that Bully was. And you certainly think of the greatest gaming franchise that the world's ever seen, that even your mom knows the name of, Grand Theft Auto.
Best game of the year, be real!
I've been waiting 5 years for this game. I've loved all of the other ones.
So it sends you into a little bit of a pit of despair and insanity, really, when you find out that the developers that made such games are the same developers that are in charge of making what GTA Online is today.
Whoa, what's happening? What the fuck? My god, what's happening? GTA Online is fucking Oppenheimer now, apparently. Okay. I see how it is.
It doesn't even look like it was made by the same company, let alone Rockstar. So let's rewind the clock a little bit here, because Rockstar wasn't always like this. Believe it or not, at some point Rockstar was actually regarded as a perfect gaming company, where most players would feel comfortable in describing Rockstar as the one company that would always actually deliver finished games with great quality, always different, innovative, and usually with a good rate every year or 2 years. Even back when it was an infant in 1998, where it wasn't even Rockstar yet, it was DMA Design, this little weird looking game that was essentially running over people on a top view kind of camera, it was already breaking ground because most of these games in this time period were pretty linear. You start here, you end here. But this game would allow you to explore as much as you would like. Now obviously when the gaming world was introduced to the 3D world, in fact they made sure to not be jumping on the boat, but making the boat themselves. This was their chance to actually break ground. And so in a short span of 5 years, GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas were released, all of which are present in the top 6 PlayStation 2 games. It would be rare for one company to have one game in a top 10, let alone 3 of the same company, beating even Sony exclusives, and better yet, GTA San Andreas being the one that actually leads the top, with 17.3 million copies sold, all in a span of 5 years. Fast forward a few years, and what do you get in a span of 8? Well, you get plenty actually. You get GTA 5, GTA 5, and GTA 5. Now that's some innovation right there. Now Dan Houser and Sam Houser, both brothers, were present ever since 1998. They were at the very heart and core of the company. And in 2011, Dan said something that is very, I guess, appropriate to this video. He said that Rockstar Games was intentionally avoiding developing games in the first-person shooter genre because, and I quote, it was in their DNA to avoid doing what other companies were doing. The goal point of Rockstar is to have players really feel what they're trying to do. And Dan wasn't lying. During this time period, there was this massive trend of GTA clones all over the place. Hell, a trend that still persists today, even though they're a little more shameless. But back then you had Saints Row, True Crime, and even though these can be considered successful titles, or at the very least they were fun, they were not bad games. This was a clear evidence that people were trying to copy Rockstar, but Rockstar wasn't really interested in copying anyone. And they weren't. They were making their own genre somehow. But then, do you remember what they decided to implement when they had to bring another GTA 5 because people needed another one to the next gen? Do you remember that? Oh, that does seem like a first-person shooter to me. It was at this point that players started to notice another trend here, but on the opposite philosophy that Rockstar once held. Rockstar was trying to be others, with flying vehicles as you had in Saints Row. Now we have the flying bike, the Oppressor Mark II, goddamn fucking Parasite. All these militaristic vehicles in a city that should be LA, futuristic with the fucking DeLorean. You have all these vehicles that no one asked for, but they clearly sell. But it obviously breaks the immersion of what it should have been a crime simulator that GTA was. Not too realistic, but it's somewhat realistic. And it quickly turned into a Saints Row type of game, which, don't get me wrong, Saints Row it's fun, but it's because it's not GTA. Now, of course, when we talk about the downfall of Rockstar, we're talking about the creative side. In terms of financial, their pockets don't have an issue. In fact, they're thriving every day. GTA Online itself alone is making $800 million of profit yearly. That compared to GTA San Andreas, their most sold game in the PlayStation 2, and if we assume that each unit was sold at $50, that gives us an $860 million estimated revenue for GTA San Andreas on the PlayStation 2. So what we can essentially say is that GTA Online is making the same success that GTA San Andreas was doing on its lifetime on the PlayStation 2. Every year. It makes the fucking game look like an ant in terms of revenue. But I have a question for you as a player. Do you honestly feel like your average GTA Online update is worth more than $1 million, meaning it costs them $1 million to even fucking produce it? Because it doesn't. And when you compare the $800 million of fucking profit every year, you have to wonder if that's even proportional. It was clear that at some point there was a shift in balance within Rockstar office when it came to the creativity side. And this is further proven by Dan Houser's departure from Rockstar in 2020. His original idea in 2011 of having players feel what Rockstar was about, it dissipated. Now, no official reason was given for his departure, that is true. But when you consider that Dan Houser was the lead narrative director of Rockstar North, it doesn't take a genius to understand that when your company is not even developing games in a 5-year span, that your use in the company feels somewhat depreciated and quite unnecessary. And it didn't help the fact when in 2018, after Red Dead Redemption 2 was released, there was this huge investigation and the company was being absolutely berated by the fact of practicing a crunch culture where people were overworked, all to meet financial goal lines, which unfortunately kills many games that we know today. I mean, Anthem was a good evidence of what happens when you try to push a game that is not ready. Fortunately, Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't come out bad, but this crunch culture of course put a huge stress in people's creativity within Rockstar, and it makes us wonder, what are they really focused in, the money or the actual byproduct of their creativity? But Dan wasn't the first one to say enough. Leslie Benzies, producer in most GTAs that you play and love today, he quit as well 2 years prior in 2016. And the following month after Dan quits, Laszlo. You might recognize him as the limp dick in most GTA games.
I can't stop jacking, dude.
We're not talking about lightweights here, people. We're talking about the OGs, the old blood. And new blood doesn't mean worse, but it will certainly mean different. The guys that made Rockstar are not there anymore. Now sure, people quit all the time, especially after decades in the same company. But considering all this timing, when the company is financially stable and improving every day, I mean, if you want to move up in a career, how can you move up from Rockstar? It seems a little bit suspicious to me. So clearly, I don't think the reason was financial or, by coincidence, all of these were also personal reasons. What I honestly believe, it has to do with how the company went, at least in terms of creativity, bankrupt. Now, I do believe that Rockstar has this one very exclusive and unique phenomenon that doesn't really happen with other online games. When you jump into a public lobby, and the very first sound that you hear, it isn't people shooting. It isn't even cars roaring, people racing their V8s. It's actual explosions like it's World War VIII. And flying broomsticks zooming across the building. As a game developer, you had to make a wrong turn somewhere. And in that video that I showed you in the beginning, where my reaction was just to quit.
Okay.
Even though I knew this for a while, that's what made me really click. GTA Online is not an online game. Sure, it has a platform where it allows you to play with other people. I mean, that interface exists. But the whole objective of the game, even today, is not focused around the community whatsoever. When my first reaction, and I know it's a reaction of many of you, is to leave the lobby as soon as you hear massive explosion. And sometimes you don't even risk it, you just go straight to a invite-only session. This is where you have to realize that there's no other online game that really does this, no matter how shitty it might be. You can pick up Battlefront 2, Call of Duties, whatever. No online game actually focuses on solo play. But even the company itself, Rockstar, has implemented multiple measures to make solo play even easier. And that's what the players are asking, but it's because we went to a really sad point of no return, where we want to be left alone, where we want to be antisocial, because if we join other people, we know we're gonna get blown up, or we're gonna blow them up just to prevent getting blown up. It's really, really bad. This environment is incredibly antisocial, which is not, it's completely the opposite idea of an online game. So Rockstar players find themselves in this weird limbo where they don't actually have an online game, but they don't have a single player DLC expansion either. I mean, these DLCs are the middle of both worlds and it's terrible. It becomes this boring, unnecessary grind fest that doesn't progress story, and it doesn't even progress competitive play or even cooperative play. And since we're talking so much about money, let's focus on the way that Rockstar makes it. Because let me be fair here with Rockstar. They come up with a business model that was a little bit different than other companies. For example, back in Battlefield 3, you had all these map packs, all these DLCs that you could buy. Imagine that your friend bought all 4 and you only had 2. At some point, once the server went into a map rotation where the next map was in a DLC that you didn't pay for, you would be literally kicked off the server, making you feel like shit for no reason. Rockstar didn't want to divide the community, and the way they did this was by providing free DLCs. They are always free, but they make it extremely hard to acquire things in the, let's call it, legal way or proper way, and rely on Sharkcards for people to buy content with actual money. Now, if this simplification was about it, that was it, and Sharkcards were pretty balanced, I wouldn't have an issue with that. It seems like a cool and smart business model to have. You make your money because I understand this, a company needs to make money, and you don't divide the community, so if people have their choice to make. But once that becomes a pay-to-win system, in a game that already cost, at least when it came out, it was $60, now it's $30 or something like that. That's a bit concerning. You're not paying for cosmetics like you do in Fortnite, you're actually paying for things that will influence the way that you play and others. Now this business model overburdens the players that do decide to pay for the Sharkcards because they are the ones basically funding the expansion packs. No problem there, but then the problem is the inflation that is currently witnessed in GTA Online, which is out of this world. When you have a cart that costs like $1.5 million, something like that. It was crazy. Like, you can't have that. I'm sorry, but you can't have that. The money that people pay for the online products are not even fair in the slightest. They do not equate, as Dark Space has extensively explained.
Adding up all these prices, we'll see what the total is for every item in GTA Online. $5,780 US in Sharkcards.
Now mind you, GTA 5 took around 3-4 years to be developed. The time they spent with these DLCs, they could have been very well building 2 different games. We could be talking about Bully 2, okay, another Red Dead Redemption maybe, or at the very least already with GTA 6 after 8 years or 9 years. But of course that, price tag or that income form of $800 million, I mean, that's really hard to pass by. But I honestly believe there's no need to have such a predatory system where it costs you actual thousands of dollars if you want to pay for the whole content. That is just ridiculous. Now, as if all this wasn't bad enough, Rockstar, like an emo kid, had to go through a phase where it recently found a deep love for music that nobody gives a shit about. It was last year, 2021, where Rockstar actually created a music label, or a record label, whatever it is, Circle Local. Going to the extent, and this is how I found out, by publishing it on the Rockstar Newswire. The same medium, the same platform that you use to get your news on games and see the updates, they publish that shit there. Now, it's not a problem for a company to branch out or to expand a little bit its horizons, okay? I mean, Volkswagen makes sausages, for crying out loud. But when they mix this channel they use for gaming with the music industry, that's a head scratcher. Especially when you consider that the Cayo Perico had a lot of shortcomings, okay? There was a lot of things that were missing in that DLC that we were expecting with such a big scale DLC. And you know damn well that the time that he could have spent in development was spent in trying to get fucking Dr. Dre to be in the expansion and then later obviously in the contract expansion. And I mean, why? It's cool, I like Dr. Dre, but what the fuck? How about priorities here, Rockstar? So that's the other part of the issue, that Rockstar is also focusing a lot on licensing music for no reason whatsoever. These things need to be secondary. When you have players who are just desperate to have a way to transport a vehicle on top of another vehicle, I mean, focus on that, those little things before you jump on ship and get Dr. Dre to be a fucking licensed artist in a game or whatever the fuck. Like, dude. In 2019, Rockstar released a casino update, and considering how gambling is a very legally sensitive subject, Rockstar had to find a way to turn it from gambling into simulated gambling. And the way they did this was to create a secondary currency, the chips. Now, the players thought, you know what, Rockstar, that's a really nice idea, well done. This way people couldn't actually lose real money when making bets in GTA Online. And this is when Rockstar flipped us the finger and just left chat. Because they made the chips buyable, meaning you could actually spend Sharkcard money into getting GTA dollars, and those GTA dollars being traded for chips. And it's literally 1-to-1, meaning one GTA Online dollar is one chip. Let's imagine you bought all 8 million on a $100 Sharkcard. Every bet that you make of 5,000 chips is going to cost you 6 cents. And it doesn't seem that big, but I mean, who bets 5,000? Now, this is also very unethical, but most of all, lazy. Because it's clear that Rockstar tried to make it into simulated gambling by creating a secondary currency, but they just gave up. So even to this day, there's a huge number of people, players, who cannot actually enjoy the essence of the update, which is actual gambling. But in this case, we would be fine with simulated gambling, but since a lot of countries have a huge problem with this, most are region restricted. In the end, Rockstar doesn't even care if you get to enjoy the content or not. This was an easy fix. You have mobile apps on your phone that have simulated gambling and have no restrictions in where you live. Did Rockstar ever fix this until now? No, it's Rockstar. We all understand that making these DLCs costs money, Rockstar. They aren't actually free to make, and we understand that you need to make money. You're not doing this out of charity. But the way they're doing it will just drive customers away. Day by day. You see 5M, people don't pay any money to play that shit, and Twitch is riddled with roleplay servers. Rockstar almost nuked itself when it tried to ban mods. And I can account as a personal case that I was withholding my purchase on the PC version because it was during this time where they were banning mods. Essentially, Rockstar, you made $60 the day you said, you know what, we're not gonna ban mods. You got a purchase from me. But if this continues, all this distrust that is happening currently with the player base, it's gonna backfire on you. Because if GTA 6 comes out and it's not even perfect, it's just a little dot below perfect, people will rip you a whole one. And time again, we're seeing how profitable single-player games still are, and thriving still, showing that that's what the players want. And the one company that kept single-player experience sacred, it's slowly kicking it to the curb, only to pander to kids who spend their parents' credit cards. I mean, how unethical is that? How shameless, how pathetic. I understand you're making a lot of money, Rockstar, but you ain't winning.